Welcome to Wiki Maths. Let's learn some math. So today we're going to be having a look at some equations, but particularly equations with fractions. So a couple of things to remember before we get started. We always want to factorize, where possible, the top and the bottom of my fraction, so the numerator and the denominator. We definitely need to determine an LCD. Once we have an LCD, we need to determine the restrictions. Just to remind you about what is a restriction, it is any value that make the denominator equal to 0. And why don't we want the denominator equal to 0? Well, because then our fraction becomes undefined. So we find the LCD, we take that LCD and we use it to make a restriction. We then apply and drop the LCD. We solve depending on what type of equation we get left with. We might get linear, we might get quadratic. And then here we want to check our solution and reject any solutions that are the same as your restriction. So let's have a look at some examples. Number one, nice and easy. We are going to state right here that my LCD is x, right? And that comes because we have an x in this denominator, we have an x in that denominator. And if I put that over 1, the only one that doesn't have an x in the denominator is that, which then also means that my restriction is x cannot be equal to 0. So I don't want an answer of x equal to 0. What that means is if that happens, my whole fraction is undefined, and that's a little bit of a mess. So once we've done that, we can then apply our LCD, and the only one that needs the denominator is that. So we will end up with 10x plus 16 is equal to 4x minus 5. Now we're allowed to drop the denominator because this is an equation and they've all got the same denominator, and so we just work with the numerators. From here, we will treat this as a linear equation. We will take our variables to one side, so let's take them to the left, and we'll take our numbers to the other side. That gives me 6x equal to negative 36. Divide both sides by 6, and I get negative 6 as a solution. Now, nice and easy, my LCD, my restriction, and all I need to do is check what am I not allowed to get. I am not allowed to get 0. Did I get 0? No, and so we are happy with that solution. Nice and easy just to start. Right, let's look at something a little bit more complex. Now, we actually going to always factorize, and we set it in the rules. And how to recognize it is generally when there's an x squared. So we're going to take anything that I can factorize, and we will factorize it. So I take a common factor of x. And what you'll notice now is one of these factors are x minus 5, or one of the denominators. The other denominator is x. And as we have it, that denominator on the other side of the equal sign is both of those combined. And so that's quite nice, because then we can say our LCD is x and x minus 5. And so my restriction would then be x cannot be 0 from that one, and x cannot be 5. And if you just think about, if I put a 0 here, essentially what we're doing here is we're saying, when does that thing become 0? And so it's at 0, or if you know your quadratic rules, it's that and that. And so those are the restrictions, and that's how I get to those restrictions over there. Cool. So once we've done that, we can apply our LCD. So this one needs the x, this one needs the x minus 5, and the last one doesn't need either. So we apply and drop at the same time, just to save us some time. I get 4x minus 10x plus 50 is equal to 2. I will leave the x's on this side, and I will take the numbers to the other side. and we get negative 6x is equal to negative 48. Divide both of those by negative 6, and I get x is equal to 8. Nice and easy. Apply my steps. So just to refresh our memory here, step number 1 was to factorize anything at the bottom, particularly the bottom, but the top can also work. We then LCD and our restriction. We applied these things and we solved. Nice and easy. And we're happy that our solution is not one of our restrictions. Right, let's have a look at maybe something a little more complicated. So here we've got a trinomial, here we've got another trinomial, and here we've got a linear. And as we said, first step is always, can I factorize particularly the bottom? So we'll just leave this like that for now. We'll factorize this into x minus 2 and an x plus 1. We'll factorize this one into an x plus 1 and an x plus 3. And we have nothing to factorize over here. So on the side here, we will just say, what is the LCD? Now the LCD is actually a combination of all of these. So an x minus 2, it'll be an x plus 1, and it'll be an x plus 3. Now notice over here, we have a little bit of an issue, because that is a 2 minus x, but here we had an x minus 2. So we'll deal with that in a second. So let's state what our LCD is. The LCD is going to be x minus 2, x plus 1, and x plus 3. And as a result, my restrictions are basically the inverse. So x cannot be 2, x cannot be negative 1, and x cannot be negative 3. Now, a nice thing for us is we have this rule that says, okay, 2 minus x, x minus 2 are not the same thing. I can make them the same thing by changing this sign up here into a positive. That lets me swap the order of those things, so it gives the minus to the 2. So I'll do that just to make my life a little bit easier. And so we get x minus 2, x plus 1, just tidy that, and we get x plus 1, x plus 3. Now the big thing here is we can change that into a positive 4, and by doing that, I'm allowed to rearrange that into an x minus 2. Now, all I've got to say is what's missing. So from here, I'm missing the x plus 3. From this one, I have the plus 1 and the plus 2, plus 3. So all I need here is the x minus 2. And on this one, I need the x plus 1 and the x plus 3. So once I've applied that, I can drop this LCD and I can begin to expand. So I can say this becomes x plus 3. We can expand this one straight away, so it becomes minus 8 equal to 4. And that gives me x squared plus 4x plus 3. Let's just expand this one to give ourselves a 3x squared plus 6x plus 3x plus 18, and then we've still got all of that, and I'll distribute that in there. So 4x squared plus 16x plus 12. Now notice we have a 3x squared here and a 4x squared there. That means immediately we should think quadratic equation. That means move everything and make it equal to 0. So ideally I'm going to take all of these things to that side, because I'll have 4x squared minus 3x, leaving me with a positive x squared. And so I get 0 is equal to, now I'm going to say, shortcut this, so 4x squared minus that just gives me x squared. We're going to say 16x, take all these x's across and subtract them, and that is going to give me a minus 3x. And if I take the 18 and the minus 8 to the other side, that leaves me with a plus 2. Now, quadratic equation, we're going to factorize. So x and 2 and 1 and minus and minus. And so we get x is equal to 2 or x is equal to 1. Now, all we have to do now is say, cool, do these match any of my restrictions? And actually, we can see that we are not allowed to have x equal to 2. So we're going to say that one is NA, and we only want the x equal to 1. Right, so that is a nice quick summary of equations with fractions, reminding you to factorize the denominators, to find an LCD, to make a restriction, apply your LCD, drop the denominators, and then solve that normally. And then remembering that you always want to check your final solution to see, do your solutions match any of those restrictions, and then reject them because we're not allowed solutions to match a restriction. Thank you for watching No Wiki Maths. We will see you again soon.